Hey everybody, it's Dan Ratkowicz, and this is episode 16 of the Helping Hands podcast. If this is the first time you're checking out the Helping Hands podcast, what we do here is we spotlight the good that's going on in our community. And one of those good things that are popping up around town are these little free libraries. They kind of look like a little bit of a schoolhouse and maybe a big birdhouse. And here to talk to us about what it is, who it's for, Frank Lukasik. Frank, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and
Sure.
how it applies to what's going on with the libraries?
Frank Lukasik, I'm an East Meadow resident, lifelong East Meadow resident, and I'm currently the director of literacy for the school district right now. So little libraries are, the cool thing about these little libraries right now is that they're built by us, and when I say that they're built by us, they're built by our kids and our middle and high school teachers. So teachers at Clark Middle School, Woodland Middle School, Clark High School, and East Meadow High School have all participated in building these little libraries for our elementary schools. And then they took it one step further and installed all these libraries for us.
That's great. It's like a learning experience all over the place, just implementing it into the community and then having the students build it.
Yeah, you talk about learning, teaching the whole child. There was so much that went into planning and creating these libraries.
How long did it take from when the idea first started?
From the vision to now? This was a year-long process, because it was a lot of going back and forth, trying to figure out, well, what's going to work? How do we match to the culture of the building and of the community of that building serves? So there was a lot of planning that was going into that.
So where are the little libraries?
So we have 5 of them in East Meadow now. Well, there's 6 in East Meadow.
Okay.
5 of them are at our elementary schools.
Each one of the elementary schools?
One at each of the elementary schools, and they're located in the front of the building. Okay. So it's easily accessible to everyone.
Outside, so anybody, right now, if school's closed, you can go there and...
Please, yeah, get up to the elementary schools and check them out. And then there's one actually that wasn't built by us, but is in the community. Just off of First Street.
Right. I saw that a couple of weeks ago walking around, and I saw that there, and there a lot of them are popping up more around different parks and stuff like that. Not part of this particular one, but kind of the bigger picture of the little library.
So there are, if you check out, like Long Beach, you're going down to the boardwalk, or if you're in any of the local parks, they're popping up all over the place. Okay. And it's really the drive of this movement is to provide access to books for everyone. So while we do have the East Meadow Public Library, while each school building has a library there, this is just another way to get kids and adults access to good texts.
And it's awareness, and it's bringing it, you see it as you're passing, and kids can get involved with it. It's a little bit of a different process than going to the regular library.
Well, it is, because you could really turn this into, because they're in the community schools and locally now, for me and for you too, right? The library it's not necessarily a walk away for us. However, walking down the block to Parkway for me, it's more manageable to trek my 3 little ones to to Parkway, the building, and let them take a book out.
Right. And each of the elementary schools are based pretty much right around where everybody
correct
is in there. Who are the books that are in the little libraries for? Are they for students? Are they for adults?
Right. So initially, I teamed up with Scholastic, and Scholastic was able to help us, get the startup books. Because in talking to community members, one of the things that we didn't want to happen was to get old books and books that look worn and torn. We wanted it to be this appeal. So Scholastic helped us out with that, and they supplied the initial startup for the libraries. And in doing that, we initially started with just kids books, and kids being K through 8 level. Grades K through 8, but since we started about a month and a half ago, we have grown, and people are donating and putting in their own books. And there's adult books in there. Last night I went to the Meadowbrook Library, and there are a tremendous assortment of texts in there for adults and for kids.
Okay. When is there anything in particular that is going? Is this just a reason to bring more awareness to reading and get young people to read more and people in general to read more? Or do you see, is there like a bigger trend of either people not reading as much? What's your hot take of where reading is at this point? Because there's so much online, on the phone, where younger people have to read, and I feel like I do more reading now than I've ever done because of technology.
Right.
But people have a lot more time constraints now, where sitting down with a good book is sometimes a little tougher to do.
Yeah. So that you bring up so many great points in there. The first piece is technology. And while there are so many time constraints for us, whether, we're at a baseball game or we're driving, back and forth from, school activities, there are definitely time constraints there. But technology has helped us with those time constraints. So for example, we spoke about this as audiobooks.
Right.
And where do you find the time to listen or to read, right? You have to steal time. Donalyn Miller, who is an avid researcher and literacy expert, she talks about stealing time. And where do we steal time from? So wherever we have some minutes in the day, we have to steal that time back so that we can afford ourselves that opportunity to be more literate, in the sense of reading or listening to a book. And reading whichever format for me, I'm an old school guy. I like the paper. My wife is an avid Kindle reader, and when I'm at the gym or when I'm in the car on those family road trips, I'm listening to a book.
What's something that you're reading now?
Right. Well, I just finished A Man Called Uva, which I had, I recently posted about that, and a lot of people in the East Meadow community have read that book. It's a fantastic book. And professionally, I'm in the middle of You Got This, which is about access and equitable experiences for literacy with our kids.
Nice. And you're more into the personal growth books and learning and
those books.
and that and I am as well, and one of the things that you brought up is making time. You got to make time for this, and you can with the audiobooks. One of my tricks that I did when I was working on getting healthier and trying to get myself out of the door and work out in the morning was I found a great audiobook, and I would only listen to the chapters if I was exercising. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't wait to get to the next chapter, so I couldn't wait to get out of bed that day, and it helped me get out of bed to go walk and exercise because I was listening to that book.
Yeah, and one of the other ways that because I'm for hockey practice, right? Hockey practice is early in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. No one else wants to get up to get to hockey practice, so I'm the one that's taken my son to hockey. And because I'm by myself, I can watch him, but I'm also listening to a book at that time.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll get lost in my own thoughts, and I'd rather just listen to a text.
Right. And you had mentioned that you had posted one of the books that you just finished on there, Man Called Uva.
Yeah, A Man Called Uva. Yeah.
You posted it. Where did you post it? You started a Facebook group, East Meadow Literacy?
Yeah, so I posted it in the East Meadow Literacy Facebook page. So one of the things that I found is we have a large presence on Twitter in the East Meadow School District.
I was surprised about that. Educators Frank was telling me, very big on Twitter for help in learning, teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of what you just said, right? It's an opportunity to learn from other educators, and it's also an opportunity to share what you're doing. So some people might look at it as you're boasting what you're doing, but when you really get down to it, it's all about sharing on Twitter and learning from one another. And that's a lot to do with, you talked about those, those professional readings and those leadership books that we're all, that we're so engaged in. And that's a big part of the world right now is, what does everything come down to? It comes down to relationships. So people are building relationships, these virtual relationships on Twitter right now. Our teachers in East Meadow are doing a fantastic job building relationships with parents and the community on Twitter, but even more so with their colleagues that, in Australia or, anywhere else in the world. They're building relationships and learning from one another on Twitter.
On there.
Yeah.
Talk about the chats that you have on Twitter too, because you'll have different things going on where you're reading a book, and that's all taking place on Twitter too.
So there's virtual chats, and right now Jamie Mack, the principal at Parkway, and I co-moderate book chats online, and it's you have to learn another language basically, on Twitter, because you have I think it's 100 and let's just say
40 characters.
40 characters, right? So you have to abbreviate and do really dissect and chop up your words and your language.
Almost like a court reporter.
To get your point across. But we hold these chats on Saturday mornings, and not every Saturday morning. We publicize it. But it's all around a book, and what we try and do is try and get the kids, let's say 3 through 5, to read this one text. So the title is One Book, One East Meadow, and we're trying to unite everyone around a common text. And it's typically an hour-long chat, but the good thing about Twitter is that you don't have to be on at that time to participate. So if you're busy from 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning, you can come on later on that day, or you can come on another day and just chime into whatever, because the questions are all posted on Twitter and they're not going away, so they're there, and you could just add to that conversation whenever you have a chance to. And everyone that's involved in the conversation then will get that update on their phone or their device that you contributed and you posted something.
Lot of excitement around literacy and getting people to read. For a parent out there that is hearing all this, sees the little free libraries popping up around town, and they want to get their children involved in more reading, especially now it's the summer. Let's take advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get that book read that the teacher gave us over the and that changed too, I think. Yep. But we'll get into that in a second. But what advice would you give to that parent that wants to get their child a little more involved in reading, and maybe it's a little bit of a struggle to get them to do that right now?
So a practical tip, the first thing I think is just to model, right? Set aside some time for the family to read. It's easy for us to say you're going to read to our kids, right? You're going to read, do it because I said so. But think about it and use that time. We talked about stealing time earlier. So just take that time that you want to set aside for your kids to read and read with them. Read your own book. Just model that literacy, reading is important for you, and that it's important for them to be on board with that. I think that's an important piece.
Right.
And then another piece is just, if you don't have a book that you want to read yourself right now, read to them, read with them.
Right.
And that's an important piece, because that's bonding that we have that opportunity for too.
So Frank has mentioned this before about modeling, and that really stuck with me, and that goes even beyond reading. That's kind of with anything, and that's something that it popped into my mind. I was at the gym with my 2 boys, and they were on the treadmill, and they're going a little bit on there. And I made sure that I kept running and pushing ahead, because that was sticking out in my mind, as a model to do that. So I think not only getting them to read and be more interested in that, but really kind of anything is to model it first. And that one thing actually changed some of my behavior over the last couple of weeks, by modeling for my kids, being,
perseverance.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we want that, especially for our kids, right? We want them to stick with things, and we want them to try things and experience everything that they have the opportunity to experience. And I just think one of the biggest things is, what you just talked about is, stick with it, keep going.
Right.
And that's huge for kids, because it's easy to, in this age of technology, it's easy to abandon something and to move on to something else, because this is always going to be there. Fortnite's always right around the block, right? And we need to work together to combat that tech craving that they have all the time.
Right.
And I think that's an important piece. There's positive tech, and then there's things that they can get lost in.
Right. And waste time
and
not really learn and grow from.
Right. My personal opinion.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense, and that it changed something to me this week. That concept.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring up Lit Camp, because that's something that you're doing.
Yeah, Lit Camp. There's a lot of fun things that's happening in East Meadow, but in terms of literacy right now, Lit Camp is one of those. And really, what is Lit Camp? This year, I spent a lot of time rebranding summer learning. So what was previously summer learning is now Lit Camp, and it really is camp themed, and the activities that students are doing are all around this camp theme. So grades, for example, are now quote unquote bunks. So each bunk has their own, their own flair, their own characteristics to them. They're reading by campfire, and when I say that they're reading by campfire, is that the classes created, paper and toilet rolls and in different colors, but they created these fires in the classroom, and now they're all reading. It's really nice to see. They're all reading around that campfire, which is exciting. They're doing, camp-themed activities that stretch beyond just the reading, but into writing and into STEM activities as well. So I was just there before I came here. I was just there, and one of the teachers she created a lake in the classroom, and then what the kids did was they created their little boats,
right,
and they were just doing sink or float types of activities with the lake and the boats.
Right.
So it's real exciting, and I think the magic in it is that parents are positive about it. The kids are positive when they're coming into school, and the teachers are really buying into this concept of re-energizing, rebranding what summer learning can be, and
right,
it can be fun.
Right, and that's definitely a nice rebranding and a nice spin on that.
Yeah,
and that sounds like a lot of fun.
There's a lot going on, and it's exciting.
Cool.
The kids are eating up so many texts right now. It's great to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So much going around in our community with literacy and getting that awareness out, growing. Any parting thoughts? Anything that we missed on here that you want to get out there that we want to spotlight of?
I think the biggest thing that we need to do as parents, as adults, and as role models is to just keep encouraging. Some kids, it's a little bit more difficult than others, my son being one of them, but just keep encouraging, keep modeling, keep putting, working off of their interests. We know our kids best, and just work off of their interests and find texts that are going to really speak to them. There's no one that's not a reader out there, if that makes sense. And there's always a book for someone. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that there's a book out there for someone, and we just need to find it. And it's going to take time, but we can find it.
Okay. Terrific. We'll close out with the question of the day that we can ask everybody out there. Anything on the top of your mind that you want to ask everybody out there, and they can put it in comments. And
what are you reading?
Okay. Perfect.
What are you reading?
What are you reading? Put it in comments.
It's on you.
Awesome. Frank, thank you so much for stopping by, taking the time out to talk about these great programs. I really appreciate it, and thanks for all you're doing for our community.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.